Hi, everybody. You are here with Nasiba from Intentional Living, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Jabri here, who is a social media management expert and a career mover. And we are discussing today career transition and moving from 8 to 5 to passion, following your passion. It's going to be an interesting one because it's a topic that's close to my heart as well, because I have been in these shoes as well. But I was on the other side of being a coward, and I never really got the chance to actually do the jump. The jump was forced on me, but I'll tell you a bit about that story a bit later on. But welcome, Javi. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.
Hi.
We are going to just go right into it. Purely, just a disclaimer. We are just having a chat. It's two girlfriends, nothing serious. We are here tapping into each other and just telling our stories the best way that we can. So if you can just tell me a little bit about your background in terms of growing up academic-wise, what was the determining factor of how you chose your career? Let's start there.
This is such a story I feel like I've told in my head so many times because of how things ended up, working out. Yeah. But I grew up in a very small town. And actually I grew up in a small town that's where I went to high school, but I'm actually from a very large township. So the township being large was actually like a super bad thing for me because I'm a super introvert, because I just find it really difficult to connect with people most of the time. So going to a school in a smaller town, I feel like that helped me, come into my a bit more. And I think people don't really realize the impact that type of environment can have on, introverts. So just to give you like a summarized version, because this story is I went to a very small school and it was an Afrikaans school. And I think just learning a new language at age 9, was very, it was just such an out of body experience. But I think I ended up being more comfortable with myself in smaller classes and where a teacher could literally pay attention to you. Yeah. So fast forward to high school, I was very academically involved. I also did a bit of culture stuff, like poetry and speeches and things like that. I think that really helped with my confidence because I didn't say a word when I was in primary. Like, nothing. My report will always say, she needs to speak more. She needs to speak up. And when I got to high school, I naturally gravitated towards commerce subjects because I just knew early on that science was not for me, even though my father really needed me to do science. It was such a big deal for him. But my mother, she allowed me to follow my heart, and my gut told me that science was just not for me, even though that is something that most people expected from me. And I mentioned this because it was such a problem at the time, because at the time I was very impressionable as well. I was a people pleaser. So I think I would have taken science just to please people. And then fast forward after that, I matriculated, and then I went to go study at the University of the Free State. Yes. And then I studied accounting. So I think I must stop there because the story is long after that. So I studied accounting, and I was actually worked as an accountant for a while. And then one day I just realized it wasn't for me. And then I just quit and became a teacher.
Okay, that is a dramatic ending.
First. So the story is long for a second.
Okay, tell me, you said you did the accounting thing. What in doing that clicked for you that this was not it for me? You saying that you just said, it feels to me as if it was just a thing that dropped in your head as a realization, and you're like, this is it ends here. Tell me about the thinking that led to that big ball of just saying, no, it ends here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, like, I feel like I want to say this a lot, but the story is long. But I think the bottom line, I was just unhappy. Like, I was just going through the motions every single day. Waking up was a chore. Being at work, like, I think that I'm not a crowd people type of person. Yes. I'm more of a one-on-one, small group of people. I thrive in those situations because I am a team person as well. Yeah. But I didn't enjoy being part of my team at work. I didn't enjoy going out in the field and assessing people's books and, doing all of that. There was no enjoyment. Like, I felt like something had died in me. But more than that, I felt like I don't know, like, I just asked myself, like, 10 years from now, will I be happy? And the level of unhappiness I was experiencing at that time made me realize that this is just going to get worse. Like, it's just going to get worse. And in Swansea, I feel like I knew while I was studying in university that it wasn't fit. I think about second year, I said to my friend that year, I was like, I don't think this is what they advertised, or I don't think this is what I was told I was going to be doing. And then he said to me, I'll never forget it because I feel like it's one of those things that determined the course of my life, but I don't blame his advice. I don't blame him for his advice. He basically told me not to be a quitter. And I'm not. And I feel like at the time, it was more important for me to continue than just to be like, okay, I quit, and that's going to be that. Another thing that played a major role was funding. I was funded to study.
Yes.
And I knew that if I dropped out, there was just no way that my family would be able to afford something else. So that was also like a thing that I feel like led to me staying on accounting. I knew on the first day of work that I was in the wrong place. It just felt wrong. Like I felt it in my gut. Like I was just like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It actually resonates. I think it will resonate with a lot of people that we find ourselves sometimes in these situations where we're like, crap, I've made the decision, and it's a long haul decision that I've made, and I feel like I don't have an option here. There seems to be no other options but to continue with what I'm doing. And what I'm hearing you say is that you realized it, but in that realization, there was no immediate step for you to take except continuing with what you have. And also the introspective sort of thinking of you saying 10 years from now, a lot of us don't do that. We just say, okay, we're here, we'll make it work. It has to work because it's the only option and there's no other thing. So if you're saying 10 years from now, I don't see myself still doing this thing, most of us tend to force ourselves to say, okay, there's no way out. And what would you say to somebody who has those feelings? Because we all have those feelings sometimes, and it's a borderline feeling of, right now, the mood is not really, or the environment is not for me, but maybe I just need to change to another company, still do the same thing, or I just need to have a better day tomorrow. When do you think you cross the line to say, this is a recurring thing now, and it's something that is deeply in me, rather than just me having a few bad days at work and maybe needing to change companies?
Yeah, I definitely think that my body told me. Like, I was getting sick all the time, because I feel like I couldn't talk about it, because when you are employed in our community, it's like you can't complain type of a thing. You work, you get money.
Girl, the money is good. You have the lush life. You have things coming in. You are SCA. What else? You've made it in life.
Yeah. At the time, I was still training, so I was just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Because my body is just constantly giving me these warning signs. I get tension headaches all the time. Can't sleep. Another thing is that I hated my mornings. I know that sounds like something small, but I love to wake up. I'm one of those people in the movies, you stretch and you're like, oh my gosh, it's a new day. But I hated that too. And I was like, this is so out of character, you know? And another thing was that the people that I told, who told me to stay, especially when I started doing articles, who told me to stay, it's not that I had a resentment towards them, but I felt like they betrayed me the way I had betrayed myself at the time, because I'm doing this thing I can feel is not a good fit. And then they're also telling me to stay. Nobody's like, girl, save yourself. You know, nobody's like, get out, rescue yourself. It's always just like, another day, another dollar. This is typical of this career. It is hectic. It is.
What did you expect?
Right. Someone actually did say that to me. I remember the first year, it sounds wrong, but I hate traveling. I love the destination, but really the road in between drives me so mad, right? So in my first year, we used to travel like 6 months out of the year. I can't tell you how much damage that did. Like, I hated every second of traveling. And the one girl said to me, but that's what auditors do. That's what we do. I was like, nobody told me. I know it sounds like something small, something that's like, everybody needs to know this. But I genuinely had no idea. And that traveling took the wind out of me. More than that, meeting new teams every single term was so, like just the adjustment was so much. So I think my body mostly just told me. I used to have headaches all the time, insomnia, just unexplained things that were just happening to me. So I think that was the biggest trigger for me.
You know, you're mentioning such a big part. What I'm hearing you say in all of what you're saying, and what I'm picking up is a level of self-awareness and knowing what it is that is something that you find fulfilling and know within yourself is yours to do, and things that are just out of now stretching outside of who you are as a person and who the type of happiness you want to build for yourself. That's what I'm hearing. There was a lot of you becoming aware of things that were not clicking to the person, the character of the person and the values that you held as a person, which now caused a disconnection between who you're expected to be and who you are, who you want to be. And another thing that I'm picking up is the environment that influences you, the people around you that are influencing your decision. It's not only our own decision to make when we start making career decisions and picking what it is that we're going to do in terms of our life purpose. And a lot of influence comes from the people around us and what they also believe. And knowing that there is a choice between staying and going is a big revelation on its own. And when you're around people that don't know that there's an other side, they'll only show you the way that they know. And you best believe that they thought that was the right way to do it because that's what they've grown up used to as well. So I resonate with those 2 points quite a lot because they can only give at the level of their own understanding, and that's what they understood.
I couldn't have said it better. Like, it's definitely, looking back, that's definitely what clicked for me. Like, they were just saying or doing what they knew or what made sense to them. And unfortunately, all of that was not applicable to me at the time. I really an option C, D, E, M, and all that was available was A, stay, and B, be grateful and stay. Like it was terrible. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let's come from the angle of somebody who's saying, Jabi, I hear your story. I can resonate with some parts of it. I do feel like I'm not really living a life of freedom. I'm really tied up. I'm really constricted. But girl, I have bills. This is secure money for me that I have at the end of the month. Following what I want to follow does not give me any guarantees that money will come in. I know it's going to be a challenge just moving through things. Maybe you don't have the level of responsibilities that I have. It was easy for you to go because you don't have kids. You don't have a mortgage. You don't have an image to uphold in society of being somebody who's put together. What would you say to somebody who's going through those emotions of I want to, but I don't feel as if? How does one plan around and make it a long-term sort of goal to move into something that you love without risking and your security of having your day-to-day needs met? And would you, as yourself, have opted for that option of maybe playing the longer game and not just drop everything at once? Because we are living in a country where unemployment is rife, things are challenging. Like, where is my next move going to come from if now I follow passion and passion is leading me to dead-end roads and things that I don't really understand that need me to become a person that is more in tune with themselves inside, which takes a long time to do as well, because it's more of a self-development journey going on this journey that you've been, as I'm hearing you speak.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like the first thing I would say is that I had those questions too. I had those concerns too. Like, I feel like as a millennial, I just feel like there's so much that is expected from us, especially if you're a graduate. Like, you can't just, like, you have your degree, right?
So, expectation, Mama Haibo. Can't.
I remember my mom that first time when I decided that I'm going to walk away from this career. This is now before I started articles.
Yes.
And she said to me, okay, you have 3 months to figure this out, right? It was towards the end of the year. So she's
this is your mom?
Yes.
Okay.
She basically, you have from October to December to figure it out. To be honest, by the time I got to January, I don't even think I had even started to address the fact that I needed a career change. That's the first thing. And then in January, because I'm from township, so what happens is all the people work elsewhere, and then during December they come home, and then in January do the great departure, right?
Yes.
People don't realize what an impact that has on parents, because as soon as the great departure started happening, my mom was like, "Okay, we're done with this. We're done with this. Now, what's going on?" Right. I think now, looking back, I don't blame her for acting that way. At the time, I was like, "You're supposed to be my parent. I'm telling you something is not right. Why aren't you getting this?" But at the time, I ignored her background, her life, what she has experienced. Like, when she did not have that luxury. For her, it was like, you graduate forever. And then here comes this person who is in such a great position, earns great money, and it's just like, at the time I hadn't started working, but I had the potential to earn great money. And then I was just like, no, I don't want all of this, And I also don't want to improve either. At the time, I do want to continue on with my studies. I was just like, I'm done. Listen to me, right? So I feel like each person's situation is different, obviously, but that was what I was experiencing at the time. Then when I went and got a job, it was really not out of an option, out of my choice. I got it because of family. I have to highlight that. Right. So when I was in that job and I was so miserable, getting sick all the time, I literally hated my life. I had stuff to pay as well. I had rent. I had a car at the time. I had stuff that I was paying for that I enjoyed doing sometimes when I was okay. I had, friends to meet up with during the holidays. All of that was paid stuff, right? I had, debit orders just like any other person. But I then soon started to realize that none of those things make me happy, including my vehicle. Like, I was just like, that's the first thing I got rid of. I sold it because I was just like, you are supposed to be the fruits of my labor and make me happy. All you are is just showing me that I'm stuck here.
So that's a big one.
Then I told my mom, I need to move out of my place. Can I come stay at home? I'll pay rent. That's what I said to her at first. She was like, why? Typical mom, whatever. But then she got really sick around that time. And honestly, looking back, that was the determining factor of me making the decision to move out of my very beautiful flat. Like, oh, love that place. All the freedom I wanted. But I gave it up because I realized that I'm not free. I'm at this place that I love, but while I'm in these corners or while I'm in these walls, that's the only time I'm happy. But once I leave here, I'm sad again, And my mother got diagnosed with a brain tumor at the time. That shook my world. Like, I feel like it's as if I got scared and had to put on an armor and had to take care of my mother and make decisions. One of the decisions if my mother's going to die because of this brain tumor, she would leave me on this earth as a very sad person. And I didn't want it, right? So I know that this is different from someone who has kids. I didn't have kids at the time. I don't have kids now. But like, I made the decision for myself based on that. Also, if I wanted kids right now, I wouldn't be the best version of myself.
Yes.
That's something that I had to be honest about because I'm always stressed out. So what am I going to do?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thing at the time, but I did think about it. Like, if I wanted a baby right now, would I be present? Because I'm always tired for myself. So how am I going to do that? So basically, those were the things. Like, I felt like diagnosis, being unhappy, but I have all these things that I pay for, and I also realized that this is just going to get worse. I think that's another thing. You have to kind of do like a future current like analysis in terms of how it's going to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now. And every time I looked at my future, I just got so sad. And I was just like, I won't do this forever, But to be honest, my mother's brain tumor definitely accelerated. Like, I think it woke me up. I was just like, my mother needs me. I have to do this.
Yeah. Wow, that is really like amazing to hear, because a lot of us are stuck in that sort of situation of the shoulds. I must, I have to, I have no choice. If I don't, who will? I have to suck it up because there's people that depend on me. And what I see you saying here is that it comes back to the self. How are you feeling in this situation inside yourself? How you feel inside yourself is going to affect how you approach everything else in life. So if you're not coming from a happy place, if you're not coming from a place of contentment with what you do on a daily basis, what are you even giving out to the world and the people that you're saying you have to do this for? Because it's not coming from a place that is full of peace, full of loving what you do, and full of just being on your purpose and living a life from a perspective of doing things that light you up. So it really resonates with me. And I remember a time 2 years ago when I was going through my own thing of just like, I'm not happy anymore. It was long overdue time of me leaving the industry that I was, but I was scared. I was like, this is safe. People tell you, listen, it's rough out there. What are you even crying for? You have to hold on to what you have until you get something else. And it's always that swing of letting go of what you have for something better, but not starting from scratch or doing something completely different. That's not preached, and it's not something that you do, because obviously there's risk. There's risk to it. There is a lot of risk, but the reward as well, when you just drop and you say, okay, I'm done. I'm looking for something that is going to resonate with me. Fine, there is many sacrifices that I might have to make, but if I come from this place of building from where my passion is, I can never go wrong. And that's what I found with myself as well. I have not gotten wrong from coming from a place of working from a place of passion. From a place of passion. So I really resonate with that. And thank you for actually sharing that. It's quite a insightful, sort of reflective stance on your side. So I really appreciate you doing becoming that candid with me. And I also wanted to go back to this point that you made of the shoulds and the have tos. Just give me a second. Just a moment. Okay. It's the shoulds, it's the have tos, and it's the verse. It's looking at your life from the point that you're at now and seeing 10 years from now, where will I be if I continue in this trajectory? Will I love the person that I'm becoming? Sure, the outside feels as if like things are moving, but am I really happy? That's really valuable for us to actually reflect on and see. And Jabi, would you say that that would? So when we're speaking about the odds and the shoulds and the impressions that the world puts on us, and letting go of that to embrace the not known, and going about in a terrain that you don't know yourself, and making your own path. and what it takes for you to make that plan and to move towards that angle. And what I hear you saying is that you have to obviously see, where is this current trajectory that I'm on taking me? Am I going to be happy? And then make the small steps. If you are in a person who says, I can't really go full in, what is it that you can shift right now to make sure that your life goes on the trajectory that you're wanting? What else would you add on that in terms of making the plan to shift and not just dropping because of situations and where you find yourself in life?
Yeah, sorry, I just had to grab my pen because so I think that what you're talking about is actually so real, and I think that's the reason why people remain stuck. Because I think the biggest thing that also kept me stuck for the longest time was definitely the unknown. I'm a plans person. I need to know what I'm doing before I even do it. Like, I need to know, where is this thing leading to? Otherwise, really, like, I'm not spontaneous. I'm smiling as I'm saying that because my entire life people have been telling me, be more spontaneous, be doing more. I can't deal with it. I have to have a plan. I'm sorry. So I feel like when a person who is a serial planner leaves something secure without a plan, you can imagine, like, I was basically like in a spiral before and after I made the decision to leave, right? But I found myself crying at the stupidest things. I wrote it down because I wanted to remember it. So in Modern Family, I don't know if you guys watch that, but the Family. So excuse me. Phil is the father. So the eldest daughter, the eldest child, Haley, basically her entire 20s were just a mess, right? And one time she was having a fit because she's just like, her family's disappointed in her. Like, she can see the looks that she's getting. They don't even take her to like college tours. Or they actually did take her one time, but when it was Alex's turn, she had that basically like that meltdown. So I'm bringing this up because he said something so critical to me. I think I cried for 2 days. He said to Haley, your 20s are there for you to discover yourself, right? That's what your 20s are there for, right? And once you have discovered what it is that you want, at least you didn't put yourself on this one course that you're not even sure what you're being told to do.
Yes, yes.
Be a doctor. If you're like, be a general surgeon. You know, nobody tells us like, okay, get out of that field and, you know, specialize in this or whatever. So I cried for 2 days after watching this episode, and I constantly go back to it because sometimes you kind of get this thing of like, did I do the right thing, blah, blah, blah. But Phil keeps me grounded, okay? Recommended enough. And I know that not everybody watches Modern Family, so if you don't, you might not get this. But what he said was just like, your 20s are there for you to make mistakes.
Try a lot of things. Huh? I'm hearing you say try a lot of things, fail, discover who you are before you commit.
Yeah, you know, and people look down on people who take gap years. And I used to be one of them. I'm just like, I'm sorry, you're taking a what? To know what?
To just figure yourself out.
Years later, that was the one thing I regretted not doing. I regretted not taking a gap year because I went from academics to academics thinking that everything is the same. But oh my gosh, that world was different. Like, it was just so not for me. And I just feel like because I didn't take the time, that's what made me. But if you're in a position right now to do something, the very first thing I would actually suggest is for you to get a coach. Oh my word. That is like the number one thing I would recommend, because you are dealing with this problem on your own. You are spiraling on your own. You are palpitations on your own. You're not sharing with trained professionals or people who really have walked this mile and know what they're talking about to help you, right? And I just feel like in South Africa, because of the fact that coaching is still a new concept, let's just be honest about that. It's still a new concept. A lot of people are still like, you know,
I'm gonna talk to somebody. I'm gonna pay somebody to talk to me. What do you mean? I can talk to myself.
Exactly. So you kind of feel like, wow, I'm gonna take out this amount of money. You know what? But let me tell you, you will have a roadmap which you currently don't have. Currently, you're just sitting in the soup of your doubts.
Yes, right? And that's paralyzing you more, and you're not taking action because you're seeing the bigger picture of what needs to happen, and it's overwhelming.
Exactly. A coach is there to literally fish you out, you know, put a blanket around you and be like, okay, now that you're dry, let's figure this out.
I love that analogy.
Right? That's probably the thing that I lacked when I was going through this. I had no idea that there were people like career coach. I knew about career assessments, and I was just like, I don't want anyone else to put me in a career corner again. Yes, like, it was just like
compartmentalize you.
Yeah. But another thing, I just didn't Google. Like, let me just be honest about that. But sometimes it's not even are you able to Google? It's just like, what's the keyword? At the time, I did not know about career coaches. So I think people now have that to their disposal, but they're still just paralyzed and not making decisions, because you don't have to quit your job to cold turkey. You don't. However, sitting and not coming up with a strategy is just paralysis. Like, you're not moving forward, you're not doing anything. So I did. That's something that lacked at the time, but I didn't know about it. And I feel like if you're listening to this, that would be your step one. Step 0.5. Yeah.
Awesome advice. Oh, that is amazing. And the thing that you mentioned of gap year, that is my passion to preach to young people. When I look back on my personal life, it's like, listen, don't fall into the trap of feeling the pressure of jumping onto something just because you're jumping and you want to do something. I was actually, it's a big project of mine that I see and vision for my future, that I would go out and speak to young people to get them out of the thinking of what our parents and their parents used to tell them because of the times that they were living in. We don't have to do that anymore. We're not there anymore in terms of survival, in terms of needing to actually have it figured out. We have a bit more space economically and mentally wise to take the time to explore things and be okay with not knowing where you're going, but figuring out who you are before stepping into something. And that's what I feel that we got, I would use the word robbed, but it's not really robbed, because that's the level of understanding that the people before us had of, okay, there's a family here. We are all struggling. We're putting you through college so that you can become something, so you can come back and feed the family, the black tax thing. But that was the life that we were living because of the times and the level of urgency for you to bring back home. But now we have a bit of a gap because quality of life has improved and the level of our own understanding has improved as well. So we're no longer stuck in that mode, but mentally we're still stuck. We're thinking we're still there when we're not. And to free yourself from that expectation of people's expectation on you and taking the time to learn and go within, what makes me tick? Do I want to travel and see the world before I commit to something? Do I want to explore different career alternatives and intern at a few places? What is it that I'm called to do? And look from that and stem from that place to take action in the world is a big advantage that most of us we didn't have. But for people coming in the future, I see millennials doing that unapologetically a lot lately, which is so encouraging to see and be like, wow, guys, do you first and see what makes you happy before you actually try to entertain other people's thoughts. That resonates. I can go on with that a lot. But from the point of where we are now in our 30s and we are here and we fell into that trap, what you're telling me is there's hope. There is never a point where you don't have a choice and you can get yourself in a trajectory where you are now living a life that you had envisioned, not just externally, but emotionally and mentally for yourself in terms of being at peace, being aligned with your values of who you are. If I'm saying I don't really like working in teams and then I go for something that works me in teams, how am I going to live a congruent life if that's what I need to show up as, which I know is a bit of a disconnect than the person that I am? Well, that is really valuable stuff. And the choice is always there. We can make a plan. We can take step one. We can do coaching if we can afford it. You can sit down with yourself and do a 10-year plan of this is where I want to be. And then what steps do I need to take going backwards to actually start taking little steps to get to where I need to go. And it doesn't happen overnight, hey? It has. I'm sure for you, you can actually say that it's a day-to-day work, consistent work on yourself and where you are in terms of your state of being in order to show up day-to-day doing things that resonate with you. So my last question to you, well, second last, right now, what is it that you're doing? What sparks you? What lights you up? How are you being intentional about living from your authenticity right now?
Yeah, this was actually like, the answer is long. But let's just stick to the basics. So when I left accounting, I went into teaching almost immediately because it's something that was just always lingering. Like, I enjoyed high school so much. And that's why I want to add, because my therapist suggested lecturing. And I was just like, that's still a bit, not stuffy, but you get what I mean.
Yes.
To on the other side, I want to interact, like I want to grow people. So I went into teaching high school. So another thing that I knew I loved was languages. So I definitely knew that I wanted to teach languages. So I ended up, in my first year, I ended up teaching English and Afrikaans in the same year, which was terrible because they actually have way more requirements than other subjects. So I was doing double of everything. So yeah, basically I dove in like at the deep side at that time because I remember telling people this and they were like, how are you doing that by yourself? But I think the adrenaline was just so high, like it was just like, do.
Yes, I'm here flourishing and living my best life.
But I think what also helped was that I had a subject supervisor who was awesome. Man, she was organized. Like, I think I really love that. On the Afrikaans side, on the English side, I would basically receive help for the longest time. And so that made everything easier because of the structure that she had. And her being like that made everything easier for me, because that's the type of person I am. Like, I like order. Like, everything needs to be in a particular order for me in order for it to work. And I also think that that's something that lacked on the accounting side. I just felt like every time we were at a new client, it was chaos. And we do things like at the top, but the problem is at the bottom. I hated that. I'm not solving anything. I'm just here to basically time and build people. It was just so not satisfying on that level.
I mean, what I'm hearing you say there, Jabi, is the, again, going back to the congruence with your values and the character of the person that you are. It wasn't aligned because there's a certain level of integrity and a certain level of meticulousness that you uphold as a standard that wasn't there, which obviously that is a train wreck for a person of your sort of standing to be working at a place where we do things superficially, make sure that the top is pretty.
That was terrible. Like, I can count so many instances. Like, for example, my boss was he was so not punctual. I hated that. Like, I just felt like, you don't do that. Don't waste people's time. And it was something I was never even considered. Like, it's just not in his top 10 things of things to. And he also loved to do this shaming thing. Like, you know, when someone like shames you, but then they make it seem like it's all like mysterious or whatever. I hated that. I want to work in open teams where people actually want you to develop. They want you to do well, right? And I felt like I got that from my subject supervisor, because she wanted me to succeed. Right? Because it looks good on her if I'm succeeding, right?
Yes.
And I really love that structure. So I taught for about 2.5 years. When I stopped, it was due to COVID. Even though my subject head was not at my school, but my school structure was also a bit offish later on, because it was a new school, so the systems were not set up. But like I said, because I had good support from other people within the subject, I think that made everything easier. And I also did love my colleagues as well, like at the school. Not that I didn't love my other colleagues, but I was just more authentic because I was happier and not always thinking in my mind, oh my gosh, I hate being here, like, oh my gosh, whatever. So when I stopped teaching, it was due to COVID. And then, so there was a lot of financial issues. So that's basically what ended that. But then my survival after that was tutoring, because I really had skill. So I didn't want to be like, unemployed and depressed. So I was just, and my mom was recovering at the time with her surgery. That was peaceful, thank God, like it went amazing. And then I didn't want to put her at risk because COVID was still new. We didn't really understand what was going on. So that's when I started tutoring. Tutoring is still something I do today because I love to teach.
Oh, that's just my darling.
Something I figured out about myself. I love. Another thing is that when I was tutoring, I realized with the lockdown that we are wasting our time doing everything manually and waiting for people to hire us. But there are so many people who have successful digital shops and digital companies. How are they doing that exactly? So that's when the question started rising up for me in terms of like, how are they doing that? And I did so much research. I don't want people thinking that I figured everything out in 10 seconds.
Yes, because that's also the perception that we don't want to give. It's work emotionally, mentally. Doing the actual physical work, there's a lot of also self-doubt and self-sabotage that comes into play at times, and it's not a bed of roses. It is a journey on its own that gets you to confront parts of yourself that are really, really deep down, like suppressed. They come up and you have to deal with those, but it's part of the journey. It's not bed of roses. Please do not sum up this conversation as if it's something that I can do. It's easy and I will get it done in a couple of months.
It was really like a long road. And I have to say that everything that I researched or found out during this time were things that I was super unaware of before. So every time I'm figuring out, how do people, like, what's the point of a website? Like, what does a website do? How does online booking, how does that work? How does this work? How is that person making money from this or whatever? I only had time during lockdown to actually watch the videos and do the research and all of that while I was working, because I want to be the best. The only thing I did was work, and that's why I did not have any other opportunities to actually do research of how can I save myself from this situation, for example. That, right?
I get your point there.
I feel like my time being, and another thing, I don't want to forget this because it's so crucial. When the lockdown happened, I was overwhelmed. Like I want to emphasize that I was overwhelmed because I love being a teacher, but I took a gigantic pay cut to be a teacher. So I was living at home. I couldn't really afford my life, but I knew that I loved to educate. So I was going through the motions of like, I'm not making enough money And I think that's the first time I felt like I feel behind in life, right? Even though I gave up all the things that made me ahead in life, but right now I feel behind. Did I make a bad decision, right? And then when COVID happened, it forced the world to stop. That was a critical moment. It forced the world to just be like, okay, let's all assess ourselves.
Yes.
That was, as bad as everything was, that was a critical time in my life because I felt like I was not on this hamster wheel anymore.
Yes, I can resonate with that so much.
Yeah. So I think during that time, that's when I was like, okay, we're calm. Let's, how are we going to get out of this? And I went into the research time of my life with that mentality. Another thing that helped during that time is that we started our book club. So we read the 5 a.m. club that time. Revolutionary book. Oh my gosh. Like after I was done with that book, I was running. I was just like, I can do this.
Wow.
And coupled with therapy as well. I also started therapy in 2019. So I don't want to exclude that. So there was just a lot of work that had to be done. And the lockdown forced me to start my healing process. I realized that even though I'm happy as a teacher, I'm still broken by the decisions that I had made that got me into a career. Forced me to take another career so fast, and I don't want to be stuck in something else again. I had those doubts all the time. I didn't want to regret any more of my life. I didn't want to just regret another morning, so to say.
Yeah.
So I think lockdown definitely sparked my healing process, and I thought it would take me a year to heal, and it actually took longer.
Oh, did it? Well, child. You get to understand when you start the journey, or when you're in the middle of the journey, that this journey doesn't seem to be ending, and I don't think it will ever end. It just keeps on morphing into the next thing.
Exactly.
I've accepted that it just doesn't. I just outgrow the level that I am to the next one, where I need to now rise up to the next challenge. That's all.
You can't grow without realizing that. Like if you ever want to go somewhere, or if you ever want to experience like real growth, you have to understand that a version of you has to shatter. And that's
child, that is like powerful. That is powerful.
That was the most painful part of my life, because you realize you're just like, for me to operate at this level, I need
you need to die. The you that you know needs to die. Parts of you needs to die in order to be reborn into the next life.
That was the most painful part that I feel like nobody prepared me for. And I think as soon as I realized it was okay. But when it was happening, it was just like,
what's going on?
What is going on with me? Blah, 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 blah. But don't you want to operate at that level? Yes. But like, I have to like do all these things, and it was so terrible. And as soon as I got that, I realized that for me to get to the level I actually wanted to be, several versions of myself had to die.
Wow.
Because you rise, you get to this level, then you realize you're like, oh, this is not going to cut it.
Yeah, it's not.
Improvement.
And Jamie, what you're actually talking about there, it actually goes way beyond just career and work. It goes, for me, what I'm hearing you saying is spiritual growth and the spiritual journey that a person goes on when we're here, while we're here on earth, of constantly seeking to evolve and to kind of have the next version of ourselves. And that's what everything is, basically. We can morph it, we can say it is job, or it's family, or it's your love relationship, but it all points back to the self, me, and how I am inside, that affects how I see the world and how the world is to me.
Yeah. That's actually like through everything that happened, I would say, in the past 3 years of my healing journey. That's what I realized. I realized that I felt broken because I lost self-trust. That's like I
think we can this talk will go on for like 2 hours, because you just touch a I'm even getting goosebumps, because you went there. You went to that point where most people don't realize it goes back to being authentic to you.
Yeah, definitely. Reflecting, that's definitely the main thing.
And you can't see the funny part is you can't see it outside when you're still busy being distracted by the other things, because they're all distractions. As much as you can say, no, I'm building a life, I'm building something here, and I'm trying to collect my things so I can have a proper life. When you realize it's all just distractions, distracting you from the real work that needs to be done, which is the internal work.
Yeah, definitely. I think like do not go into your 30s without getting help.
Well, it's happened. It's happened. We're living in a world where most of us are saying, which means now the train has left me. And I want you to talk to that point of somebody who's saying, okay, my job sucks. Everything sucks. I hate it. I hate the manager. I hate everything. How does that person now make that situation work while they're still trying to articulate what plan that they need to be making and trying to see what baby steps they can try to take to move forward in a different direction? How do you now embrace and be grateful for what you have? Because a bigger part of actually cultivating an energy within yourself of moving past the level that you are in terms of feeling stagnant, feeling like you're not really at where you're supposed to be, is having gratefulness for where you are currently before you now swing. Because when you move from an energy of just saying, all of this sucks, all of this, there's an energy that you're carrying in yourself that will not work for where you're wanting to go. And when we take that energy, it's like a lose-lose situation when you're going to the next thing that you're going to. Definitely. How would you speak to that point?
I think the first thing, and now, this is now me reflecting like in this moment.
Yeah.
The first thing was that I let it get worse. That's the biggest mistake that I made. I knew something was up. I knew that I needed help because I tried to fish myself out of it and it wasn't working. And I consider myself a very efficient person. So it was just like, well, if I can't do this, I need help. But that's the other thing. I'm a helper, but it's very hard for me to ask for help. Anything like me, I would say that's your first problem, right? The second thing to identify, in my opinion, is when you roll forward your goals, right? So you are currently operating on 2019 goals. I see this all the time, like, because technically you've had nothing to aspire to in the past, and that's what a growth mindset requires,
yes.
right? So every year there's just something you need to accomplish or whatever.
Yes.
Even if the accomplishment is I want peace this year, meaning I'm not going to take on any more tasks or anything like that. But if you are just going through the whole year, it's 1st January and now it's December, there's nothing significant that you've done that means to you specifically because of, and when you roll forward your goals, you stop making them because I'll just take the same ones next year I'll roll them forward to next year. So I feel like the first thing is to identify. That's why I'm mentioning these scenarios to you so that you can realize that there's a trick, there's something that's just going to ring and tell you something is not okay, right? Yeah. So then after that, get help if you try to get yourself out of it and it didn't work, right? Some people, in my opinion, try to fish themselves out of it. When they fail, it's as if the world has failed.
Yes.
There are people who are in a position to help you. And then I also think that another thing to realize is that don't wait until you are moved by pain. For example, I waited until
because it does. The situation comes, the scenario comes when you're now forced to make the decision, and it's not an option that you have anymore. You are pushed into it, and a lot of us face that with COVID because we were pushed into jump. Exactly. You've been saying you're not happy. Here's it. Sort yourself out.
Yeah, and some people who survived the whole COVID retrenchment period don't go, phew, that was a close one. No. Some people don't have that luxury. They had to make a plan in the moment. So see it as a big giant warning that it was. See it as, the pain that it caused you or the panic that it caused you. See it for what it was. And that was your sign that something needs to happen. So don't wait until, something terrible or something painful happens in your life for you to make that decision. You can make that decision today. Again, you don't have to cold turkey anything, right? Sit down, make a plan. Step 1, maybe save a little bit because I actually identified this person who can help me. Step 2, reach out to them, send them an email. Hey, can we talk? I'm drowning. Simple, right? Or start looking for another job. Other people are drained by looking by the whole process of looking for a job.
Yes,
I was one of those people.
Me too. Just the nervousness of just thinking of sitting in an interview. Now I'm thinking, what was I even scared of? It's just the thinking that I need to sit for an interview that makes me nervous, but I haven't even done it.
Right. And you just get paralyzed by it. And then you just think, let me stay here. This is way safer.
Yeah.
It's just not going to do anything. Yeah. Find someone else who can help you in that process. I feel like me getting comfortable asking for help is the best thing I've ever done for myself.
Wow.
Because it got me the help that I needed. Currently, there's like a ton of people helping me, right? Whereas before I was just like, I'm drowning, but I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah, and the thinking that you're on your own. You only have yourself to look up to have your own back. That's a level of thinking that needs to be shattered to say, there is a world of information. People, obviously the information can get overwhelming. People are there. Reach out. It's not just the paid people. If you need to start off with somebody free, there are free calls that you can get on and get a bit of clarity and see where you can start.
so many free resources. Oh, another thing I wanted to add was definitely environment. And I don't mean this where you say that also has a factor, but social media has a gigantic factor also in how you view the world.
Yes.
I can't remember when I did this, but I recently changed my social media in terms of who I follow, right? It's not a big deal because these things are not supposed to be personal, right? However, in the past, I was always following, just random, accounts or whatever. It's for the fun of it. So everybody just scrolling like, oh, cute, all of that. But I realized that I am not self-employed because I don't know anybody else who's self-employed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Then I changed my entire social media, found people who were self-employed, what exactly it is that they're doing, and all of that. And that's basically how I started my social media career.
Because you have to have like things that you're looking that give you the sense that the life that you're wanting to go into is possible. Exactly. And if you're not putting yourself around those people and seeing that influence, you're going to be still stuck in that thinking that this is the only way to do it.
Exactly. And that's who I started to follow. And most of the people who I follow left corporate America or corporate South Africa or corporate whatever country they're from because of the fact that they were no longer happy, meaning it's the same thing that I'm going through, but they made decisions earlier than I did. So I'm looking at, what else is possible? What else can I do? You see? So I feel like that had a critical, change on my outlook. Because before, when I was an accountant, I only followed accountants. So every time something I don't enjoy, but I still follow them. Why?
The lion acting like a sheep scenario.
Exactly. So now I'm just like, they're doing something that I know I don't enjoy, but I'm watching them do it. How is that supposed to happen?
How is it programmed in your brain?
Exactly. And that is the biggest difference. It made the biggest, because we're on social media anyway, you can't avoid it. So make it a place where you are going to get something out of it. Right now, my social media is entrepreneurs,
yes, girl.
Just making things happen and all of that. So that's actually how I got into social media management, because I didn't know it was a career, but I know about Instagram algorithms and like all these other things. Also research I had to do, right? And I made that into like a mini career for myself. Wow. So currently those are the two things I do. Actually, I do three things. I'm a tutor. I'm a social media manager. I also consult. This means that I consult on digital marketing services as well. So this can include email marketing, newsletters, and all these other things that I also offer as services on Fiverr, which is this. Wow. So that's basically how I make my living.
Which I think we can speak for another close to a day. But I'm going to close it here and say, where can people find you? Where can people find you and on social media?
Yeah, I think the best place is to follow me on Instagram. It's you see now, because it has an it's in it, it makes me feel confused.
It's Jabi.
It's Jabi. So I'm always on Instagram. I love Instagram, especially for business purposes. I think that it's the best place to meet people. So yeah,
that's where we met. My key takeaways, Jabi. My key takeaways from this wholesome talk that can go on forever that I've had with you is fine. The box was created. The people that you looked up to at the time when you were growing up only knew the box. But as you grow up, as you become more of who you are, as you are more in charge of your own life, it is your own responsibility to tear down those lines of that box and rebuild whatever it is that you want to rebuild as a box, if you want to still put yourself in it, based on your own authority and your own choices and what you want to make the box as. It could be a square box, it could be a circle box, it could be no box, no lines, but you get to choose. And when you understand that you have a choice, you come from a different angle. You come from an angle of possibility and not feeling constricted, not feeling weighed in, not feeling like you have to listen to the have to and the must and the obligations that are put on you by expectations of the world. And you get too much to the beat of your own drum, the best way you can. That is the land with you authentically. And that is something that you built for yourself and write for yourself and not somebody else say, this is it. So that's my biggest takeaway of find it within yourself. It is a hard journey to go on. It is a journey that calls you to be more responsible and create your own life from within, but it is worth it because you live a life of congruence and you get to live and do things that spark you from moment to moment. And that does not mean that you're now this person, but you morph into different, better versions of yourself. But you have to let yourself know that there is option to keep morphing yourself, because if you don't have that, if you don't know that option, you think you are stuck and you think you have to be in this sort of situation. So thank you so much for coming through and sharing with us and giving us such goosebumps of, yes, it is like this, but it doesn't have to be like this always.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this chat. I think it's super critical. I think
girl, it is too much critical. It's too critical. Like, we need to have these conversations.
I would have killed to have seen something like this when I was going through it. So I think that I really hope that it helps somebody, because that's the main reason. And I think that you keep saying it because it's there, but nobody does it. You have a choice. Life you recognize. Look yourself in the mirror and see the real you. That's what's important in life.
That realization, it still gives me goosebumps to actually say, in any situation, in anything I do or interact with, or in anything that I experience that is unexpected, I have a choice as to how I deal with it. And it's just so revolutionary. It's just so simple, but it's so mind-blowing and so paradigm shifting when you know and live in it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.